G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Off Ukraine War Update for the 2nd of October 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cade, Power Games, Into the Elves Mound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire, Part 1, available now. Thank you to all those who support the channel. You can support the channel by buying my books, buying my merch, joining my patrons. All my links are in the link tree. And of course, Russia has advanced. Well, Zelensky barks and diddles and fiddles like Nero, and as Rome burns, so does Ukraine. People, of course, are trapped in their cities by Ukraine's forced internal lockdowns. You know, like, according to Kremlin, they have taken more land in Kupiansk. This is one of the key battles, and has been going on for quite some time. You can see a lot of the city is actually destroyed. You notice they always point out that they target civilians, but it's Ukrainian soldiers in civilian houses and driving civilian cars. But yeah, Russian officials say they're on the cusp of seizing all of Kupiansk, but they've been there for off and on now since March. Now, Trump's pivot on Ukraine may, of course, depend on a number of meetings with Europe, as Europe is making promises they can't keep with money they don't have. Even if they stole all the money from Russia, it'll only buy them another year. Now, Ukrainian drones allegedly hit a huge plant and allegedly destroyed 60% of the plant's processing capacity, and they've done so at other plants, allegedly. Of course, this is what Zelensky's doing, and he's being guided by foreign intelligence agency. This is all to the plan to drive up the price of oil, to force the US to capitulate to the global pricing mechanism, to bail out Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and many other oil states who are at the, well, I wouldn't say the verge, but on the verge of collapse, okay? A lot of these oil states haven't upgraded their equipment. Dubai has spent billions on building a city of sin, and it's biting them on the ass. The rising cost of just maintaining Dubai city is enormous. Dubai is one of the few places in the world nobody talks about often because it's a place of slavery, it's a place of degeneracy, and it's sliding into the sea slowly because nobody took to account the amount of weight that, and this is actually goes back to when Hitler was redesigning Berlin. He was one of the few actually who turned around and says, wait, I want to build this grand city, but first, can the ground actually support it? And this goes back to Venice and the sunken cities on the coast of Europe. There are many sunken cities around the world where cities were built on the edge of swamps, whatever, for whatever stupid reason, particularly Louisiana, ending up, of course, with dikes, and because Louisiana's sinking. Some areas of the world just are so fragile. The oceans aren't rising, land is sinking. Although new land is slowly rising up to take its place, it's just right now land is sinking faster because we're building on it too heavy. We're building too heavy a building. We're not putting deep enough foundations. A lot of things are going wrong, and Ukraine is a distraction from that. Ukraine is, of course, touting its Flamingo cruise missile with its massive range, though it hasn't entered service in wide scale. Russia's reacted angrily to the reports that US will provide Tomahawk missiles. Of course, why, if the US Tomahawk missile costs so much more than the Ukrainians' Flamingo, why do they need the Tomahawk? And if Ukraine's winning, why do they need the Tomahawk? If Ukraine's winning, why do they need help? Of course, Europe has declared that it's no longer at peace and is moving closer to war with Russia. And of course, every time blaming Russia, even though Russia says, hey, we can end this now, Ukraine says, no, never, never. And Europe says, no, not until you do what we want you to do. Do everything we say. I mean, it sounds like a bully. And you may say, but Russia's the aggressor. Well, yeah. See, I know I would get more views if I kissed Ukraine's ass, because so many people out there kiss Ukraine's ass. But guess what, folks? I'm going to bring you the truth without fear or favour to the reality on the ground. The reality is, Russia's just announced an upgrade to its missile defence systems, as well as its offensive missile systems. Now, this appears to affect both the Iskander short-range ballistic missile and the Kinzhal, which is a air-launched variant of the same missile. Now, the ranges are about 480 to 500, but it's more likely 500 to 550 given favourable conditions. But yeah, of course, in less favourable conditions, that actually is cut. Now, these missiles do not follow a predictable trajectory, and this has been shown in the past, as Russians have tested multiple times these missiles. The West has actually seen these missiles follow, noting that neither missiles that were observed followed the same pattern. Ukraine claims to have Ukraine has claimed over and over again to have intercepted 14, 15, 28 missiles, but it turns out they only intercepted one of 7 on June 28th, while 6 of 13 struck their targets, according to US Defense Agency report, which just came out. Now, the Defense Agency report, one of the reasons why I don't use it, particularly is that they're a month to sometimes 2 months behind, and and most people just tune out on the stats anyway. But basically, the US Defense Agency reports downgrade practically everything Ukraine claims except casualties, in which the US estimate to be much higher than Ukraine claims on their side, and they actually have at times stated they have overestimated they've counted Russian wounded as dead. Now, Ukraine apparently has time for pomp and pageantry in the middle of the war. Why? Well, their status. They worship the state, don't they? And of course you're going to say, but Trump's military parade. No, this is not a military parade. In the middle of the war, a flag ceremony? Really? Kissing the flag? Acting as if it's some... Yeah. This is above and beyond a military parade. This is indoctrination into the worship of the state, worship of Zelensky as the head of state, and the military showing their obedience to their master and not to the country. This is what dictators do. Of course, And they always accuse Trump of doing it. And then West holds military parades too. But you notice the difference. You look at the military parades in Eastern Europe, most of them are pretty tame compared to this. They definitely don't have flag ceremonies and kissing the flag. This is something I've never seen the Ukrainian military do before, though you see plenty of pomp and pageantry with the Nazis, the communists, the fascists. You actually see, you look at Venezuela, China, they have specialist marching units. Now, Russia's advanced, lots of shelling, lots of politics, and lots of lying. But the economy of Europe is crumbling. They are stealing Russian assets and trying every day to get permission to do so. The Group of Seven are putting pressure on countries to stop other countries to stop buying Russian oil and impose other restrictions. Viktor Orban has held talks, allegedly, no confirmation, he spoke with Donald Trump, but allegedly Donald Trump has told him not to stop, has not told him to stop buying Russian oil, as he has demanded by other NATO members. Why? Viktor Orban is not supporting Ukraine. He's not supporting the Ukraine war, so technically he is a neutral party. He has every right. Trump has pointed out that the Russophobes, and this is what France, Germany, and England had planned all along, is to force down the price of Russian oil so they could buy it up cheap. They didn't expect a war. They expected after 6 months the Zelensky would sign the negotiation and Russia would sell them lots of oil. But then, well, apparently with some help from people within the US, Ukraine went ahead and bombed the Nord Stream pipeline and escalated the war instead. Why? Because they didn't get their cut. See, Ukraine wants their cut of the Black Sea oil. And to be the pipeline to the West. Well, that ain't going to happen. They destroyed Nord Stream so Ukraine could say, you must send oil through us. But the whole reason behind Nord Stream was the fact that Ukraine was stealing oil from Russia. So don't tell me the Russians were the aggressor when it was Ukraine who started this. Now, shelling and bombing has occurred in multiple locations, hundreds of drones. Now, of course, there was also cross-border shelling to cut power to multiple locations. This was deliberate, obviously, to get see obviously what the effect of, and it worked. They hit the. We finally get to see what gets hit so often. Now let me see if I can bring this up again. Sometimes this doesn't work. Here we go. All right. See that? See those low-lying buildings? These prefab low-lying buildings? And this bushy area. And you might recognize those buildings from the other side and that white building. See those blue buildings there in the middle? Russia hits them often, and Ukraine keeps rebuilding them. This is some sort of factory storage area in the middle of Ukraine, in the middle of Kiev. In the past, they've hit, and Ukraine's been rebuilding, as you can see. Ukraine is rebuilding. A lot of it's a facade, though. They're empty buildings, but you can see the car dealership has been rebuilt. It's been hit before. You see lots of Kiev buildings painted over. But if you look closely, you'll notice they have no windows. These are all facades. Most of them are empty. See the sky. Something wrong with it. Yeah. These buildings in the background are added. They're out of focus for the rest of the shot. And that's out of scale for the rest of the shot. Yeah, it's a CGI composite, but you get some idea what's happening. I think also it's possible this is CGI. It's hard to tell how much of this is CGI, but you'll recognize some of these buildings. But this is what Russia's been hitting. These blue, flat buildings that are dotting Kiev, they are logistics centers, drone hubs. Apparently they're pretty much prefab buildings. They only take a few days to assemble. They're bringing them in from Poland all the time. Apparently this is stuff that the Nazis originally developed during World War II to replace bombed factories, burnt out spears. I forget spears. America had similar plans with, but we never really seen much of their rapid deployment. Was a lot of it wasn't put in effect, though they did use those sort of quick fabrication techniques to build buildings in some parts of Vietnam, and they built rail. The same techniques to build rail in Europe. Some of those rail bridges the Americans built are still there today. There's actually both sides destroyed lots of rail bridges and rebuilt them in short periods of time. But right now, most transit in Ukraine is trucks and truck parks and car dealerships. The Ukrainians are using cars and trucks to move about to try and hide from drones. So you can see why Russia's hitting truck dealerships, truck stops, because a lot of these big truck warehouses are actually military depots. And Russia's hitting the same ones because they keep getting rebuilt. That does... now, of course, not always they're going to be full, but the point is, Ukraine is lying and doctoring photographs, and they're pretty obvious that they're full of shit. Alright. Far out. Alright, so got distracted there. Now, must have been pretty important to put a whole lot of effort just into destroying one building, but that's the decision of the Russian High Command, and they don't explain their decision-making process in public. Now, there's always fighting here on the buffer zone north of Sumy. There's occasional fighting here north of Kharkiv. Now, we go here to Kupiansk, and we're seeing Russia's taken a huge chunk out of Kupiansk, and yes, they're still fighting in the center. I would say 2/3, maybe, it depends. More like half, although it's hard to tell because I actually think this is a different town. I think this here is a different town, and Kupiansk is this junction up to here. So maybe half. Okay. Now there are other areas where Russia is stalled. Now let's go to here, for instance, north of Lyman. Russia is stalled. In the Lyman area, Russia's made small advances. A rapid advance, taking out this town, and all the way to here. Though they're still stuck here. They've taken most of Zakrin. Though they've taken some territory north of Yam. But here, it's growing that they are not, although it's always a possibility that they may still break through to cut off this road here. It is more likely now that they are going to Cauldron, Lyman, and cripple the probably to draw in resources from like here and here, draw in the reserves to grind them down like they have before. Have taken more territory north of Silvesk. They have advanced on Silvesk, as you see. The Russians have made significant advances. A little bit here, but that could just be redrawing of the map. Now, Chavis Yar and the siege of Konsk remains static, though there is fighting. There is still fighting here in this area here. Now, there was reports of fighting in Pavosk, but there's not much to report. And there's only though there is some advances here in the west, there is no towns or no new towns that have fallen to the, possibly a whole bunch of small towns, but those rarely get reported, and a lot of those, this is where allegedly Ukrainians had retreated before, and people keep saying on Telegram, there's going to be a Ukrainian offensive soon. Well, yeah. Why do you think Russia hit Dnipro? Russia knows that. You don't have to tell me. I don't care if Ukraine is building for an offensive or not. Russia knows, and I don't care about rumors, but if the rumor of them building up was true, then that explains why they hit truck stops and storage depots. And probably why they also hit these areas where Ukraine has typically gathered troops. You know, Sumy, though it's usually, areas where troops gather. You know, Crossroads, Dnipro. But most of these have been hit so many times that I would suggest also that there's thousands, everyday cars, will be coming in through these roads. There is a summit to try and keep Ukraine in the fight. Mark Rutte has finally said the quiet part out loud. Ukraine's losing, and NATO's trying to find a way to keep them in the battle. And one way, of course, is they're opening a new training base in Poland for 1,200 soldiers. Hey, that's about how many die a day. That's ridiculous. This is a Norwegian-led project. But the reality is this is a stepping stone for Poland and the Baltic countries to enter into the conflict by beginning a military build-up in Poland, which just happens to be alongside a drone launching strip, where they've been launching Ukrainian drones, allegedly. So that's why the whole Ukrainian drone case has disappeared. And poor old Hungary gets the short end of the stick again because they don't play by the European rules. It's the same. If you want to stick it to the liberals, share my videos. US, however, may not be providing Tomahawk missiles, but they are providing intelligence according to Russian sources, although even President Trump himself has said that he's allowed intelligence agencies and the Pentagon to provide intelligence, according to unnamed officials in the Wall Street Journal, which, though a lot of the time the Wall Street Journal is full of shit, there's been too many multiple reports from many sources to actually discount the Wall Street Journal on this occasion. I think they're pretty... usually if they were wrong, I think Trump would be screaming out fake news, and since he isn't, I think it's not a fake story. Now, Russia has hammered Ukraine, and as you can see, about 17 hours ago, this is this area in the set. This is Kharkiv. You can see these buildings. See them. Look inside them. Again, what do you see? Empty. Right there. Alright. I couldn't pause the video and the noise was burning in my ears, man. Alright, so as you can see, multiple missiles were striking multiple positions. You hear multiple explosions, which means there was something in those buildings that blew up. But later they're showing you extinguishing the fire and the inside of those buildings empty. So whatever was there was obviously vehicles that were towed out, or as the explosions hit and fuel tanks that were burning, the rest of the vehicles in the building fled, which makes sense because not too much of the inside of... And of course they carefully curate these photographs. You don't know which building is which time of day it was, whether an hour had passed, 2 hours had passed. They don't show you starlight. You can see they blank out the sky. They grey it over, which gives it that CGI effect. So you don't know how much of the photograph is edited. You don't know the timestamps. They are deliberately misinforming you. But the main takeaway is Kharkiv was hit by multiple missiles. Something in one of those buildings was blurred out as it blew to Kingdom Come. And one of the other storage buildings, though empty, had fires around it, which obviously meant a vehicle at least was struck, or it was a compound where vehicles were loading, and the rest scattered, of course, when the error alert came, and whatever was left was hit. Now, several takeaways. Russia has announced 134,000 troops. They've also announced a few new projects. One, of course, is the Iskander M. Is it MM? The Tor 2 upgrade. The more Tor 2, sorry. More upgraded T-90s. They're continuing upgrading, of course, a lot of their older tanks, although they are selling some of their older tanks to India and other countries, including China. Russia, of course, is replacing a lot of its helicopters. One, of course, is the Mil-8 transport, Mil-8/17. They've both been replaced with the Mi-80. This is still in the technical phase, although according to some, the designs have been prototyped and tested, and that a few of these prototypes have been tested. And August, there was announced that a new attack helicopter will be joining the fleet, but at what point? Now, this is the Helibura, or HP-17. This is to replace what's left of the Russian helicopter air wing with the Army. Now, this is a hybrid multi-purpose to fill the role between light and heavy aircraft. This is to basically, so you have the Mil-80 as a light attack helicopter, and then you have the Hellbro as a multi-purpose to fill the difference between the light and the heavy of course being the Su-25, 35, which is not a helicopter, but they said aircraft, yes. Now, again, you do have helicopters. Now, there's also other helicopter programs. These are further down the track. Russia seems to be doing projects in threes, though the drone program has taken some setbacks, and it appears to have gone back to the design bureau, but several Shahed drones and Lancer drones may be making their debut this month. Several new drones, surveillance strike drones. So you have the Shahed, which will remain their long-range strike drone, though it's been improved in size and speed. You'll have new surveillance drones, new light attack drones, which in the form of the Lancer, and of course the long-range strike drone, which is in the is it Orlik or Osprey? Osprek? I've heard different pronunciations. But there was recent speculation about loss of aircraft in Ukraine. The strike may have actually been on a drone launching site and was not aircraft. Research has only indicated that Ukraine has lost 69 aircraft, though this has been disputed. They have only been able to replace 27, though they say 27 MiG-29s and MiG from the numbers are disputed. Same with F-16, the numbers are disputed, but 3 F-16s have been lost. Now, some Su-25s have been lost on both sides. Again, there's been more. Those were lost in aviation incidences, but which includes a French Mirage. Now, it's believed this Mirage has been replaced. Same with one of the 3 F-16s have been replaced, allegedly, by Sweden, though Ukraine claims it was a Sigorin. That's, well, a Swedish aircraft, no, it was F-16. There has been a crash, but that was an older story, but there was a crash. The last Ukrainian aircraft was believed to be the MiG, although, the MiG-29 crash. Always, although it's most common that pilots eject safely. Now, we have no reports on Ukrainian mobilization, though according to the Ukrainian opposition, without confirmation, out of the 50,000 per month target, they have only been able to meet 35, and that barely replaces battlefield losses, according to the Ukrainian opposition, though the Ukrainian opposition admit they have limited access to data because they are shut out of the Office of the Presidency, a lot of which contains, classifies information as top secret, and Zelensky has accused the Ukrainian opposition of helping the Russians, The Russians don't need help. They have plenty of help from Zelensky's incompetence and immaturity. Now, there was multiple fires reported at other locations, including the railway depot, which you could see a train has been clearly derailed, and the force of the explosion had thrown the rail car away from the track. Ukraine only claims light damage. I don't think if that was a sheer drone, then clearly there was a something big on that train, and probably why would it be on a train to Odessa? I think this is. I don't think this occurred at Odessa. I think this occurred on the train. I think this is actually Dnipro, and that Russia destroyed an ammunition train, and Ukraine is trying to deceive us all with false information so they can see who knows what, when, where, or why. I'm just saying, I don't think, particularly the way they've cut out the sky and the shadows, that this is Odessa. Again, I would suggest Ukraine is not open, transparent, or honest in its reporting. That it is possible this was a train coming out of the rail yards in Odessa, but it was hit probably at night. The ships would have cleared port in the early hours of the morning to ride the tide, as they also have to go slow through the Black Sea and go slow through the Straits. And they have to line up and wait for permission to go through the Straits. So, and I don't think, and again, this is Ukraine, of course, is calling these attacks barbaric and all the other cliched, hyperbolic adjectives. At this point, Zelensky is just a little child lashing out because he's not getting his way. Now, there was a drone attack, Shard drone attack on a power plant. Now, this was a power distribution center, and this shut down power supply through the north. This was 3 hours ago. And since then, of course, you have attacks on Sevastopol. Ukraine claiming there's fuel rationing. That's actually been going. Well, never mind. That happens. That was announced a long time ago. Ukraine is repeating stories, and of course, what they're not telling you is how Ukraine has fuel rationing and limited. So yeah, Ukraine has all the fuel because it's been given to them. What we have, of course, is classic Zelensky projection. Always accuse the other side. Always muddy the waters. Always confuse the audience, hoping that your imagination will run wild enough and that you will believe the Zelenskys of this world who lie with confidence. Confident people are often confident. Just because somebody's confident doesn't mean they're honest. You need to learn that lesson, otherwise you will get deceived. It's because somebody's confident. That's why they call it a con artist, a confidence trickster. Zelensky gains your confidence and then has lured you all away with his narratives of being the oppressed. He's the one who provoked this war. He could have ended it in 2022, even before it started, just by calling off the attack dogs and the world recognising that Ukraine was engaged in a legal war against ethnic Russians engaged in ethnic cleansing in the Donbass. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you for your time. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.